got 3 monitor and I got a backlight here.
Oh my God, Blair.
I also light myself with monitors.
Except my lighting is like, where do I place my white Wikipedia page? So
That looks good. You're getting a really nice, like, soft light
right
to the side. You're getting that Rembrandt lighting. You really want that triangle. Let's see. I kind of have, mine's a little bit harsh, but you need that triangle, like right here on the cheek.
Surrounded by monitors.
That's what you're looking
is
for.
The strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, we are live.
All right.
I need to do
Right.
the live stuff. I also need to change the title. Like, we're not doing Falling Down. We're doing
You need to change the
Green
tempo? Is that what you said?
Night. I need to get Edgar Wright's Burroughs stories really quick.
Edgar Wright's Burroughs.
Go to Edgar Rides Burroughs.
How do you spell green?
Groin.
Green.
Gimli, son of Groin.
Green Groin.
Gimli Groin.
What movie did you guys
son.
watch? The Green Groin.
Green Groin.
The green groin.
That was a
big green
disease, I
groin.
think, in the
we were supposed to
1300s.
watch the Green Lantern, right?
Yes.
Yeah. The
Yes.
Ryan Reynolds.
All
one.
right. Good.
Okay, there's
Actually, we're
that.
supposed to watch The Green Room.
Oh,
Oh, fuck yes.
I
Thank
love
you.
Green Room. Green Room.
I've seen Green Room like 10 times.
Green Room's
It's
Dude,
amazing.
it's
Green
so
Room's
good.
pretty good. It's a good movie.
I like that movie.
still haven't
The
seen it.
good thing about the Green Room is that everything you wish the characters would do prior to them actually doing it, it fails. You're like, oh
Yes.
yeah, I'd die immediately in that situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's great to see Sir Patrick Stewart not
Mhm.
operating a spaceship.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
But no, he's great in it, and he's really menacing because he's so unassuming.
He's
You know, he's
charming
not-
in it.
Yeah, he is,
Yeah, I
and it
would
makes
say
it
That's
charming.
and that's
Absolutely
who
terrifying.
someone in real life in that position needs to be.
Absolutely.
Charming.
Yeah, no, he is terrifying in that movie because he's just chill and, like you
Yeah.
said, charming, and everybody
Yeah.
obviously respects and looks up to him.
That makes it so much scarier. Yeah.
I would
A lot
agree.
more weight
Yeah.
to it.
I need to watch that movie. Still haven't seen it.
You should watch all the directors' movies. He had Blue Ruin before that, and then
haven't
I think
seen that, is
Murder
it?
Party was an earlier comedy kind of one. But Blue Ruin was great. The guy who played like the bartender, not the bartender, one of the helping guys who was nice, who let them go in the end. He's the main guy in Blue Ruin.
Okay,
Forget his
I
name.
haven't seen that one yet. But I did like Green Room very much. So
I've heard Blue Ruin is pretty good.
There we go. I finally
Yeah,
got
watch it.
my Star Wars lighting here.
Hey, there we go.
My blue and my red going.
Nice.
I
Nice.
need to get my Wikipedia light back up. There we go.
There
I
we
know,
go.
right?
Yes.
your
Man, Brent, I'm
Wikipedia.
so
light.
happy that
As,
you
as, soon- as
also
soon as I
have-
switch a tab, it goes dark on me.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you are also using monitors to light yourself. It's
Hell yeah.
it's
Hell yeah.
brilliant.
It's so
God.
great.
All I have are these, this really expensive lighting setup.
Yeah, no, that's stupid. You should
I
just
know.
have
Yeah.
I feel like I'm missing out.
monitors.
Just think what I would look like if I didn't have my expensive lighting.
See? There we go.
Yeah.
Are we doing
I would
Star
actually
Wars
be
lighting
bald.
tonight?
Oh, look at you go.
Look at me.
Hey.
I'm doing things.
I'm done, thanks.
Oops.
All right.
That's
Well,
too
we're
much.
live, aren't we?
Are we
Should we
doing
start?
this?
I think we're already. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
What is? Brent, do you have something to say? I feel like I'm like.
I think Brent's getting pulled over right now.
Oh, that reminds me. So I was hauling ass this morning into work. I was on my bike this morning. It's hauling ass. These people are like, in the way because they're in the carpool and everything. So I fly around them and stuff. And I'm just going. And I look to my right, and this cop car just comes. It's one of those cop trucks that comes right up next to me, right past me, flashes his lights, and I think I'm done. I'm getting pulled over because I'm going like 90.
Mm.
And then he just slowed me down and then kept going. So I got really lucky.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I was shitting there for a minute. I'm like, well, this is it. And I lost my insurance and my registration. It flew out of my pocket, so I don't have any of that right now. So that would have been 2 tickets. Right there.
Didn't they change the rules not that long ago? It was a few years ago where you can actually pull it up on your phone. You just have
The
to have it now.
insurance, yeah, but the registration I don't have.
So you do have to
Yeah,
have a
same
physical
thing.
copy. Okay, because I think in Texas that did change. So you can have
really?
it digital. Yeah. Because I think
Here I'm
that's
not sure.
You can definitely have it digital in Texas.
because I think you had. For me, I had to request physical insurance. I know for sure because I had to request a physical insurance card, and I was like,
Yeah.
if I can legally have it on my phone, then I'll just do that.
Yeah,
I'll
it's
just
not-
lose
I
it
don't
on
know,
my
but I
phone.
think you still-
They
I
can
think you still-
also. I got pulled over in California, and they just can look it up.
Hmm.
Because I was looking it up on my phone, and the cop
Yeah.
was like, "Oh, you don't have it easily," and I was like, "No." She's like, "I'll just go look it up," and she just walked back and looked it up.
They're just trying to see if you're lying, right? When they ask you,
Hmm.
because they're gonna go look it up. They're gonna run all your shit.
I mean, exactly. And so this, ever since then, and also I've been pulled over, I guess probably 3 times in the last 5 years, and not once have they ever wanted to see my registration. They've only
Really?
ever wanted to
Hmm.
see my insurance.
Huh?
Interesting.
So I don't think I've ever been asked for my registration by a cop. Now that I think about it.
There's always license and registration.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
I
guess I
haven't-
don't.
I've been
I
pulled
think-
over in
Yeah.
6 years.
Damn, brag
So,
about it.
So, yeah, maybe
Just
even
don't go
longer.
outside anymore.
The table
I've
is
been
particle,
raided.
but I knocked on it. Yeah.
I've been
Uh,
swatted before, but they didn't ask for my
Have you?
license and
Yeah.
registration
Are
there.
you seriously?
No.
God.
No.
Poor Stanton hasn't been swatted. He's still alive.
Yeah.
I mean,
Still alive.
There could be an
Yeah.
unsuccessful
Ugh.
swatting there.
Ugh.
Unsuccessful SWAT. Is there a successful one? I guess when they kill you.
Yeah.
No, when it's an actual SWAT situation that needs swatting,
It's a successful SWAT. Yeah, when someone calls SWAT on like
an actual hostage
actual
situation.
hostage situation.
Yeah, not on
Oh.
a streamer because they think it's funny.
Yeah.
Dude, the people that get caught for calling in false SWAT things, they need to go to jail for life.
Forever.
That's ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it should
Like,
just
you
be
can't-
attempted. It should be attempted murder.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That'd be good. Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's
I mean,
unbelievable. Every time I see that story,
if
luckily
it's
it
a-
doesn't happen as much, but
And if someone gets killed, then it should be murder.
Yeah, it should be
Mhm.
at least manslaughter. If nothing
they
else.
did. There was a guy that got manslaughter. Yeah, he
Yeah,
got 25
yeah.
years because he swatted a dude who was streaming just for fun, and I think his wife got shot.
How the hell is this fun?
I don't know. I don't know.
People are kind of stupid, you know.
A little bit fucked up.
The
A little bit.
internet,
A little
man.
bit. A little bit.
A little bit.
All right. So we watched a movie.
Mm-hmm.
We did watch a movie. We
Speaking
watched
of
a
SWAT,
colorful movie.
So you have
Ben
a movie for
just
me?
watched the movie.
I literally just got back from watching the movie.
How do you
All right,
feel
hold on.
emotionally?
I know, right? So I want to start this by my movie theater experience, which is what we generally do when we see movies. In theaters.
oh yeah. We
right,
haven't talked about
so-
this in a while.
I will say I went to Cinemark
Ooh.
because they were the only ones who had a showing at exactly 5 p.m., which is what I needed it to be for me to make it. Because the movie is 2 hours and 10 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
And usually we start this podcast at 7:30 Central Time. So I thought, all right, 2 hours, 10 minutes. I'll get there at 5. I'll watch the movie. It'll be 2 hours and 10 minutes plus, I don't know, a few minutes of previews. And then I'll get done at like 7:15, 7:20 at the latest. And then we'll be good to go. So I go in, I get my ticket, I sit in my seat. I sat through, and I looked at this because I was concerned. I sat through 32 minutes of previews.
Yeah.
Did you guys know that previews were that long? I watched a quarter of a movie in just previews.
Yeah.
It is
It's
not
pretty
that long
long.
at the draft house. The draft
was-
house is usually most 10 minutes.
It was so I couldn't believe. I mean, it was just because I was on a time crunch. I've never been on a time crunch watching a movie at the theater before. Sitting there watching preview after preview after preview, I'm like, holy shit, this is ridiculous. How? When am I gonna get out of here?
And you're not watching previews. You're watching short versions of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm watching really long, like of shit that I was never gonna go
Yeah.
watch.
So you don't
Like,
need to watch it now because you saw the whole movie.
Well, the closest thing I saw was Candyman. That's like that's the most likely thing that I would watch. And you know, Dana knows my feelings about horror movies. Like, it's very unlikely that I'm even gonna watch that. And so, like, I just sat through a bunch of shit that I don't care about, and about 15 Coca-Cola commercials. One of them was literally a mom, or no, it was a guy who was like who said like a your mom joke. And then the things like, oh, my mom, you mean the woman who gave birth to me? Or how about this that she did? Or how about that she did? Or how about all these things? And it was like all these things that, like, you know, stereotypes of moms. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. Like, one of them was like, she could give a look that scares all the neighborhood children. And there's like a mom holding a broken garden gnome and like 12 kids running off into the fucking forest.
The hell?
And then at the very end, and it's like, and she Diet Coke. And she fucking takes a swig of Diet Coke. Commercial over. That was like a 2.5 minute commercial of just like a bunch of things about moms and then Diet Coke.
Man, we got to bring back the polar bears.
Mhm.
Coke just seems
I mean-
to
Polar
the
bears were
polar
good.
bears. man.
Polar bears and Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Come on, what's happening?
There's not, and so thankfully there was 3 people in the theater total, including myself, and we all sat on the exact same row. One of the guys was sitting directly next to my seat, and I was like, "Come on, man, you fucking bought the seat next to mine," and so I sat one away from him. But
Yeah,
like,
because that's
He
fucking
he
weird.
he urinaled you, dude.
he urinaled me because he got there earlier, and so he
Good,
got
he
the better
urinaled you.
spot. I know what he was doing. He didn't think I was going to sit next to him. He knew that I was going to sit another seat away, and he was going to get the center seat because I bought the center seat. What a fucker.
He's probably talking about it on his podcast right now.
I will say though, I was really irritated by the commercials, but the ticket was $8.
Oh,
Nice, not bad.
It's fair.
So
I
Tuesdays
mean, that
at
gives it an
Cinemark,
A plus
yeah.
experience right there.
Mhm.
Yeah, and the fact that it was $8 ticket and nobody was talking because there was 3 of us, it was like I would know who the fuck you are if you were talking. Like it was a good experience. They have reclining chairs, so overall I would give the experience a B plus. But like when you're on time crunch, don't go to the movies, I guess.
Now,
Yeah.
No.
part of the experience for me is what you're eating and drinking. Did you get anything to snack?
I actually didn't think that I had time because I showed up at 5 on the dot, and I was like, I don't have enough time to wait in line to buy food. And then I sat through 30 minutes of previews,
You had
constantly
time.
thinking this is
You
the
always have
last
time.
preview because I'm not
Yeah.
gonna have I'm not gonna be able to leave and come back. I'm gonna miss some vital shit in the beginning, which leading into the movie apparently didn't matter because this is a very, very slow movie.
Yeah.
So it would have been very hard to miss anything.
Yeah. So
gonna- Look at us coming halfway through and got the same effect.
probably.
Yeah, I mean,
I think we'll get to it, of course, but I think the thing about this movie really is the ending, because whenever I look up anything about this movie, it's always like the Green Knight ending explained. So I think that's what people are really,
what they really care about.
paying attention to. Yeah, is the ending. So
I guess there's exactly one line that's important in the beginning, which is where the letter says, "I'm gonna hit
Hmm.
you," or no,
Yeah.
"You're gonna hit me, and then I'm gonna hit you the same way." Like
Mhm.
as long as you hear that, I was wondering about this because it takes about 20 minutes to get to that point where they play the game. You know, the Knight versus, or Darwin versus the Green Knight.
Green Knight. Yeah.
And I was like,
What a fun
man,
game.
like if somebody wasn't paying attention for that 30 seconds of reading the letter, they would have no idea what the rest of the movie is about.
Clearly, Gawain didn't pay attention either.
No.
He could have
So-
chosen any way to hit
So,
him.
guy
paper
in the
cut.
nose, like
A
Yeah,
fucking
he
paper
could have
cut.
given him a little love tap.
We
Yeah.
do have to understand that this is coming from Arthurian legend, which is already pretty
Right.
fucking kooky and weird. And also, I was thinking about this today because I was really trying to wrap my head around why the story is so famous. And the only thing I can think of is because like a lot of these legends, they were made to entertain, yes, but they were really meant to coach a lot of the times. You know, there's just like this is supposed to teach you about chivalry and honor and going and honoring this thing that's probably going to get you killed, you know, because you said you would and you can't back out of it. And so yeah, there's a couple interesting things, and of course it's Arthurian legend, so it's fucking weird as shit. I mean, Excalibur is a weird movie if you really want to break down some.
I love Excalibur.
It's a
Yeah.
fantastic movie, but if you really break down the individual parts of that movie, it's very strange. And the weird thing about Arthurian legend too is there's a lot of parts to the story. It's not just one cohesive thing where everything meshes together. There's a lot of side quests.
there were
So-
side quests in this movie for
Mhm.
sure.
My favorite thing about Excalibur, really quick, is that everybody sounds like when they're wearing their armor, they all sound like they're wearing aluminum serving trays.
Yeah, they do.
The whole time they're walking, clink, clank, 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 clank. I'm telling you, it's just guys with aluminum serving trays going like this the
Yeah,
whole fucking.
it's not even like
Does
good
it-
sounding
Does
armor,
it
like a
have,
good
The
clink.
wobble.
Yeah.
It's like
No,
No.
it sounds like thin aluminum trays clank together.
It sounds
I'm like-
like their
Those turkey
budget
trays.
was their budget was the aluminum crimp that you put over your take home food.
like
You know,
Yeah.
that's what it was.
That's
They
what
they flattened that out, smelted it down, and then made their armor out of that. Like it
Smelted
sounds smelted it. Look it up. It's a word.
It's a word.
It means what I did say.
I know what it is.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I guess just having watched it, so it starts with a fire,
So
in the village, does anybody have any idea why?
even
they
before
chose to start
that,
it?
I do want to
Oh,
talk
it-
about the actual first opening scene of the movie, which
Go ahead.
I was looking up a little bit of what the director did, and so I was very much in for a visually impressive movie, and I think that's really what you get. Like this movie,
It is very
like whatever you
visually-
think about this movie looked fucking incredible.
Oh yeah.
It was
Beautifully
beautiful.
shot, beautifully lit, beautifully colored. It was absolutely perfect. Like it's like, you know, that YouTube channel Every Frame a Painting. Like this was what I was
Yeah.
thinking of when I was watching
There
the
were
movie.
literally scenes
was
that
incredible.
were framed like paintings. Like
Yeah.
there are particular scenes that stand out to me where I'm just like, man, like I would hang that on my wall. That's fucking gorgeous.
Like the first scene is I guess it would be Morgan Le Fay maybe doing the voiceover. Someone's doing the voiceover, but she's telling you a little bit, like kind of getting you into what the story's going to be about. And it's that hooded figure, you know, and he's got like the staff in his hand or whatever, and his head's bent, and it just like lights on fire. Like I
His
remember,
headlights on fire. Yeah.
yeah, his headlights on fire, and I was like in the movie theater, I was like, oh, okay, I'm in. Whatever the fuck is about to happen, I'm so in. So
There
at
was-
least the end.
There was a little bit of I don't know why I'm so hyper vigilant when I'm watching movies for the podcast in particular, but for for that particular scene, you could tell that the way that they lowered the crown onto the guy, because that's how it starts. It's like a guy sitting on a throne, and then there's a crown slowly lowers onto him. It's very clearly just on a string because it's.
I
Like
thought I saw
wobbling.
some wobble too.
It's just pulling just a little bit.
Okay,
Like,
so
the
it wasn't
guy is
just
like,
me.
no, it's
No, no,
it's
you're right.
totally on a string. And it's just like,
Yeah,
but,
dude,
like-
practical effects,
Frax.
practical
Nice.
effects, bro.
yeah, it is a
No, that shit
practical
was real,
effect,
bro.
It's
Mhm.
got to be a practical effect. But I think that that's actually, I mean, the wobble I don't think is intentional. I think that was whatever stagehand just like, you know, doesn't have steady hands. But
But it
Very
was Luke
steady hand.
Skywalker.
but it made it feel immediately like a stage play to me. And I think that that was one of the things that stood out to me throughout the whole thing, was that, like, even though it's a movie, it's one of those movies that's like, you know, we're gonna go more theatrical with this, like theater as opposed to just like a movie. And so I think that was a good tone for me to have set immediately, because some musicals, well, not musicals, some theatrical plays,
This was a musical.
I don't know why I said musical. I guess that's what I think
know.
of when I think of
Just
stage
fuck
plays.
with it.
But
The Green Knight. It's a Green Knight.
gonna get his head chopped off. So that set the stage for me tonally, where I was like, okay, yeah, if this is gonna be one of those things, then I'm gonna feel a lot less like weird about when it goes in these very strange directions. Because I think a lot of theatrical plays do go in very strange directions. I don't know why they get away with it more on stage, but like, if I don't know how long it's been since you've seen an actual stage play, but some of them are just like nonsensical. It feels like.
I think that mindset definitely would have affected my viewing had I gone in with that. I saw it with our friend Brittany, and afterwards, and I'm influenced by the people I watch movies with and their reactions too. And so afterwards, Brittany was like, "What the fuck?" Which is fair. But if
That's
you
what I
know
thought.
that you're going to walk into a movie that's basically like a fever dream poem, where everything you're seeing isn't necessarily literal in every context, is more of conveying emotions, and
Yeah.
Then-
That's what I saw it as a fever dream.
yeah,
Pretty much
Yeah.
the
It
whole,
felt like a few. Yeah, I mean,
movie.
I would agree with that. And-
which is what I liked about it.
Mhm.
But even at 10 in the morning, with a gallon of Starbucks in me, it's tough keeping those lids popped. Let me tell you what, buddy.
You know,
Gotta
I
use
actually-
a toothpick trick.
I'm not really sure if I watched the movie or if I just dreamt something and woke up and just had the same effect. Yeah.
But and I'm not shitting on it for that. I like movies like this.
oh yeah,
Yeah, it's one of those things you kind of have to be in the mood for sure.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a movie that's great for watching, just kind of as background in a way, and also for sleeping too. It's great. It's gonna make a great sleeping movie. I can't
Oh,
wait
yeah.
till it comes
Oh yeah.
on streaming because that's gonna be. And I'll be like, but no, and I went into it knowing it was gonna be what it was, you know. So I wasn't like, what the fuck is this shit? I knew he was gonna be this, where the dialogue kind of don't really mean nothing, but it
Mhm.
does, but it kind of don't. It's all about the visual stuff, and I like that part when he goes to that house and he retrieves that girl's head and stuff.
Oh yeah, that was
Oh,
awesome.
yeah.
I loved all of that shit.
I liked it too.
think
I
that
thought
stuff
that was
great.
awesome.
Yeah.
I love how there's no real explanation for it. You don't know who this chick is. You don't know what's going on.
Hmm.
She did the Goldilocks, wait, who's sleeping in my bed kind of thing. That was kind of fun. And the fact that you don't know what's going on, but it kind of doesn't matter. You know, it reminded me of. I'm trying to think what it's. I had it earlier, and now my old brain lost it. Company of Wolves is kind of like this. Where and Company of Wolves is a fever dream, actually. But the whole movie makes no goddamn sense. It's the same kind of thing. It's about werewolves, I think. But The Fountain. Have you guys ever seen The Fountain? This reminded me
Yeah.
a lot of The Fountain.
I've seen bits and pieces of The Fountain. Okay. Yeah.
I really like The Fountain. Now, you don't really know what's going on. A lot of shit happens, but it's one of those movies that's shot beautifully, looks beautiful, acted well, but none of the dialogue means anything. Things just happen, and I like it for that. And that's this isn't like my top movie for him, but I liked it for that. I just wish it was shorter.
Yeah.
I think it went a bit long.
I wish it was a
For
little
that
bit more
style of movie.
cohesive, but I didn't know the Legend of the Green Knight before I went and saw this movie. I had no idea I knew what kind of movie I was getting into, but I didn't know what kind of story I was getting into. Of course, again, it's Arthurian legend, so a knight, one single knight, is always gonna go off and do some quest for some random bullshit. It's always gonna happen. So really, you're getting into it. Like, and the entire time too, I'm watching that, I was like, okay, this movie is meant to be interpreted. It's not really meant to be watched at face value. And so I did a lot of that. Like when I walked out of the theater, I was like, I wish that was better. But now the more like I've been sitting down and thinking about it, and then I read the story of the Green Knight, it actually follows the story like to the T. Like it's spot on. It is spot on. Yes.
Because of how just how out there it was. I was like, this must be extremely accurate to the original tale.
Yeah, it's very accurate. So all that stuff
I read
happens.
the same thing. I read it afterwards, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
All this happened in the story. So it's like this detour that it feels like a detour when it goes to the hunter's house and the wife and all that stuff. All happened in the original story.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't know what the purpose was of it was exactly, but it was interesting.
So
Right,
the
Brett?
interesting thing with like Arthurian legends and the original story that's veered off in the movie adaptation of it, I think, is that it seems like in the original story, Gawain is an honorable knight, truly wanting to prove himself. And so through all these tests and kind of tricks that are presented to him, he's passing these tests. But in the movie, he seems like a truly flawed, almost immoral character.
He starts as a drunk
and
banging whores,
who truly
so.
doesn't see the right way until the very end. And I didn't quite get that when reading the original story. And it seems like that was definitely a tonal and directional shift in order to present it in a more emotional way.
Yeah, I think it worked so much better than the original story.
I think if he was just ready to go and die, like I think that it probably would have been really awkward to watch. I think mostly just for like a modern audience, because like most people aren't ready to just go and die. And so seeing him be what we would consider to be human in the face of like this thing and being like, I'm really gonna like just go and get my head cut off. Like I know I should, but what? Yeah, I liked seeing that conflict inside of his character, even though it was never actually expressed necessarily through anything other than the tone of how he talks about what he's doing, which I thought was pretty impressive as an actor.
Yeah.
And it was interesting them actually presenting it very directly. Like when he went to the dead woman's house and he asked, what are you going to do for me if I help you? She immediately asked, like, why would you ask me that?
Why would you ever ask me that? So I was wondering, does he have the same moment in the legend where he
actually no, because in the legend, again, they're proffered as the top chivalrous knights. So Gawain is already in the legend. Gawain is actually already a knight at the Round Table. He does this to prove his honor and his worth as a knight of the Round Table. But in the movie, he isn't yet. He's, again, like we've been talking about, he's just a drunk. And so this is kind of like
presumably he's a squire.
Probably.
He is somehow able to be knighted, so whatever that is.
Well, he's next in line to the throne. He's the nephew, and this is legend of as
yeah.
well. He's nephew to King Arthur, so he's next in line to the throne. And so there's a couple of really important bits of dialogue that I do want to talk about. So I will say there's not a lot of dialogue in this movie, but what is there is very, very important, which I really liked about it too, thinking back on it. But yeah, in the original story, when he goes to that dead woman's house, that's just the thing he does. He just helps out this person and goes on his way. It might not even be the same story as the Green Knight. It might be a separate thing that Gawain does. But I do like how they made it a little bit more cohesive in the movie, where again they show him as a flawed character, where he doesn't just help people out of their necessity. He does want something in return, and they set it up in a very good way because he lost everything that he needed. He lost the axe, he lost all of his shit. His horse is gone, so he's got nothing. And so when he completes that quest, puts her head back on her body, she gives him back the axe somehow.
Right.
Magic.
Yeah.
Arthurian legend, who gives a fuck, doesn't matter. So I did like how they at least made that story made a little bit of sense. What didn't make any sense, and I'll give it a pass because they literally called it the interlude, was that weird ass scene with the
interlude?
giants.
Yeah.
What?
That was weird. That was
Yeah.
really weird. That has, I don't know what context that has in Arthurian legend, but giants is a huge part of legend in Britain.
Like Norse myth, or is it? I mean, it felt like Norse or something.
It did.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there was a
Norse
scene
would
where he's
definitely-
literally when he's walking in the interlude. He hasn't quite met the giants yet. There's like a giant rib cage in the background that a bear is.
I
just,
noticed
like,
that. Yeah.
futzing about, and I was like, that's very Norse. Like it's weird that like there's just like these giant bones, because the big thing with Norse legends is like a lot of natural features are actually the bones of giants.
Mhm.
And so I was like, that's weird. I didn't know that Britain also had giants that were quite the same way. But the whole thing that stood out to me with that entire scene was that, first of all, Gawain was like, hey, like he wasn't
Yeah.
off put by it. He wasn't surprised that there was beings that were like 150 times his size.
Yeah.
He was literally like, yeah, these
This is-
guys.
This is the equivalent of your dad pulling over to the gas station to get directions. Is what
It
this
was,
sounds like,
yeah, he was like,
right? Where are you guys going? It's like what?
Yeah. And
which
then
direction? Will you carry me?
Yeah.
could you
But yeah.
imagine if the clerk behind the counter at the gas station just started singing at you?
Yeah. And was breastfeeding and was bald.
They were all bald. One of them was breastfeeding. He tries to talk to one of them, and again, it felt very Norse. It speaks in some tongue that's like almost
Yeah, I think they-
imperceptible.
Mhm.
It speaks in Fox, clearly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I
I,
thought it
don't
was
even
really
think that.
weird that the fox howled, because in
Yeah.
reality, the fox should have sounded like a shrill scream,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
would have
Foxes
made
sound
that
weird,
scene
bro.
Foxes are
way
not. Yeah,
more
they're like, "Yip, yip."
horrifying. Yeah,
They're not.
if the fox is like, and then the lady was like,
I don't even think that the fox was part of the original tale as well, and
I don't
so,
think so.
It was like that whole scene with the giants was maybe set up to show that Gawain could trust the fox. The fox was protecting him, but it's like,
Well, the fox
but
ended up being
again,
the
what was
king
the
anyways,
point if
right?
it wasn't part of the whole story?
He ended up being Arthur anyways, right?
No, the fox was Morgan Le Fay.
Who's
His
Morgan
mom.
Le Fay?
His
yeah, I thought
mom
the
is
fox
Morgan Le
was his
Fay.
mom.
No,
Yeah.
but later when when he goes to take that boat and the fox sounds just like the King Arthur.
No, I think it's because she was using
No,
magic. I
I
yeah.
think the fox was his mom.
No,
Oh,
Wikipedia
interesting.
says it is
Oh.
Morgan
Oh.
Le Fay. Yeah. Wikipedia
Okay.
says.
Wikipedia
Oh.
says it's his mom. I assumed
Doug-
it was his mom.
Doug noticed something about every time the words hit the screen. Doug, what did that make you think of?
It was kind of the only thing. I'll have to go back and watch this movie again, because throughout this film, I kept thinking Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
It
Oh, yeah.
did feel
The
like Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
the smoky outdoor scenes, all the lettering like the interlude and stuff like that. And when he knocks on that castle, the hunter's castle door, and then pushes his way in and falls on the ground, I thought sure it was Castle Anthrax, and
Yeah.
that, you're gonna have a
Naughty Zeus.
rail-shaped beacon and all this other shit. And like I said, that was the only thing a little off-putting for me. It was difficult for me to, because I remember, and I don't remember how closely the movie follows the story, but I remember reading the story like what 35 years ago or something, and
Back when it was originally written.
Aren't you King Arthur?
So, but no, like I said, is a lot of it was just kind of, for me, unintentionally amusing, just because I could make connections to Monty Python.
When
And,
they'd flash the words on the screen, like, you know,
but
A
yeah,
beheading.
is the old
Oh, yeah.
English printing
Right.
and stuff like that.
I wonder. Me and Doug were talking about this. I was sitting there going, I wonder if this was the original intention, or
Yeah.
the
that's
producers are like, nobody's going to know what's going on. You have to do something. Do a voiceover. You know, they always say
Because I
do a
mean, it
voiceover.
seemed, yeah,
He's like,
it's
no, how
most
about
of
I
that
put words
stuff,
in?
like the interlude and all that
That's what
stuff,
it felt like.
just seemed unnecessary.
Yeah.
As
Oh,
far as
I
I'm
liked
concerned.
it.
I'll-
Actually,
I
liked it.
Realistically, I liked it. Yeah.
I'll defend the style in that I think that is perfectly the director's, as David Lowery, his thing with
Oh yeah.
some of his movies. If you look at his filmography, it's a little weird. He's done like Pete's Dragon, and he's going to do.
I did
Peter
look at
Pan
his
and
filmmaker and
Wendy.
I was like, what the hell?
But then I
Yeah.
just watched The Ghost Story again just yesterday, and the whole movie is totally stylized in a way that producers would say no to.
Oh, really? Yeah.
So I would think that some of these stylistic things that you're seeing were probably himself.
Well,
Yeah.
it's interesting when you see movies like this too, because you know a movie like this, everyone going into this thing and leaving the thing, who make a movie like this, they know this thing is not going to make any money at the box office,
Yeah, which is
even if we
weird.
weren't in COVID. This
Yeah.
isn't that kind of movie, right? And I'm
Yeah.
always amazed that movies like this get made, especially now.
Mhm.
There was a time where everything was a roll of the dice. You know, back when Doug and I were youngsters, the amount of movies that were a complete roll of the dice, they had no idea it was going to work or not. You know, it happened all the time. That's why we got so many great movies back then, and up into the 90s.
Now
Um,
part of that is A24 as a
A24
Mhm.
makes.
like the Witch was their big like opener, Ex Machina.
I love Deus Machina.
Yeah.
That's a great movie. And you're right. A24 is probably the only really good studio out right now. I said it.
It was making like
Only-
real movies.
Trying something.
Yeah,
Trying something.
exactly.
You know.
Yeah.
So even though this movie, yeah, it was a little tough to stay awake at times because we were in a dark theater. I still like that they were trying anything, something.
Yeah.
You know
It
what I mean?
it was a very interesting watch.
It
for
was.
Sure.
And Dev Patel, the acting was amazing. Dev Patel
Oh
is,
my
is
God.
one of those actors that like he's
Fantastic.
Mhm.
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
great. And the guy who plays Sir Arthur, or King Arthur, I forget what his name
Oh,
is.
yeah, that-
Thing.
Oh, British.
Oh yeah, the guy that
Yeah,
sounds
the
like
guy's
the
always
Mystic
Sean
like
Rider.
Harris.
Yeah.
Sean Harris.
He sounds like that.
Sean
in
Harris
Marvel.
has been in Mission Impossible movies.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He's great.
King, Prometheus.
Yeah, he's like known for
couldn't-
that voice of his.
He was
so.
the tracker in Prometheus who got lost.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And wasn't afraid of what was he afraid of? He was afraid of 3D apparitions, but not of
Yeah.
snakes. So
yeah,
anyway,
not of alien snakes that could suck your face off.
So-
Fantastic writing.
those don't
Love
scare
it.
me.
Love it.
Well, yeah, I
I
thought it was
know we-
interesting that Arthur basically sent him to his death. There's clearly a moment where he's like, "Well, you will tell me what you find in the chapel."
He said,
Mhm.
"You understand?" Before he took it, you understand what this is. He said,
Mhm.
"Sure, I got it." And
I
cuts
got
his head
this.
right off. Did not get
Yeah.
it.
Well,
Okay,
see,
now-
let's talk about that scene because that is a very, very important scene. Let's start at the
Yeah.
beginning.
At the very beginning.
I want to say this is one of those very important lines of dialogue that when I was watching the movie, I was like, this is very, very important. You have to pay attention to this part. Is because when he's asking him, to sit by him because he's like, I've never really talked to you. And that thing, he's trying to learn about his nephew and like what he's done. And he's like, so what's your story? And he doesn't have one. Because you know what Gawain has been doing, or as they call him in the movie, Garwin.
It's
Up at-
actually
I think that's just the accent.
Gawain?
the accent.
Okay.
It's-
Gawain?
yeah, so it'd be
Yeah.
it's
Gowan.
it's Gawain. Gawain.
Gawain? Is he from like
Gawain.
New York or something?
Gawain.
Gawain?
Yo, what's up,
Yo,
Gawain?
you gonna go fight the Green
Go
Knight?
get the car.
Gawain.
Um,
So there is no R. It's just an A pronounced in a way that sounds like there's
Mm.
potentially an R in it.
okay. I couldn't tell if that was like a British accent R or if there was actually
It's
like
a
that's how we were
British
pronouncing it.
accent, no R.
Okay,
I
British
think it's
accent no R.
supposed to be-
Gives me a
Gawain,
good
it's
time.
Gawain.
I think it's supposed to be an Old English accent. Actually, I think they're like doing their
Hmm.
best to like replicate how the Old English would have pronounced his name.
Makes sense to me.
Trying to look up a Wikipedia pronounce for his name.
Okay, I'm right there with you with Wikipedia. That's the first thing I do when I walk out of a movie. I'm like, all right, let's see what Wikipedia
Right.
says.
Yeah, exactly. What
Yeah.
the fuck was that movie about?
Yeah.
It's like Battlefield Los Angeles. I don't understand. What was that?
I'm being
was a
told
hype.
Gawain, but the movie went a different direction, clearly.
Yeah.
Really quickly about that too. I think this is one of those movies, though. I don't think you're just supposed to get it, walk in, get everything. It's not wrapped up in a nice little bow.
Mm-mm.
It's supposed to make you think. It's supposed to make you
Yes.
ask questions. It's like 2001. This is why I love
It's like
2001.
it's like 2001 or
Yeah.
like Holy Mountain or like
It's
Or
or the fountain.
Yeah.
Or the fountain.
This is
It's supposed
why
to
I
make
wanted
you
to
ask questions.
This is why I wanted to do this for the podcast, because this is a fantastic question asking movie. So let's get into that part. So again, so he sits down, he's trying to learn about his nephew, and then he says, "What's your story?" And Gawain says he doesn't have one. And so that kind of sparks. That's why I think he actually goes and cuts the head off of the Green Knight. And I mean,
he's trying to impress
he's-
his uncle.
but also like no one knows who this dude is. He kind of just showed up and he's like, "I have a game for you guys," And so
Well, he's surrounded by all the knights of the round table. They're all old.
yeah,
But still, this is where he's going to get a name for himself.
yeah.
He's
And
not
so
going to get his name for himself anyplace else. That's usually how the knights got their honor and everything else. Is they went out and they quested and they saved this person or did that, and through word of mouth,
Just a little
as
bit of power.
happens here, is after he cuts the Green Knight's head off. He's back in a bar or a tavern or whatever, and everybody knows.
Mhm.
There's that one guy who's saying, "You're Sir Gawain. You did this. You cut that guy's head off," and making a big deal out of it. And that was sort of the purpose.
It actually
Is,
makes
and
a lot
that's
of
why
sense, too,
that's
yeah.
why he
Yeah.
overdid it when he probably should have just kind of tapped the
Mhm.
Green
Yeah.
Knight on the head and said, "Okay, there you go. I'll see you in a year."
And I think that definitely set the tone for the rest of the movie, where even that decision of standing up and chopping the head off, like you're saying, overdoing it, was out of immoral and honorable or dishonorable reasons. Like
Yeah.
he didn't
Right.
do it to
Yeah.
defend his king. He did it because
Yeah.
he felt less than these other knights.
Mhm.
Well, he needed a story. He needed
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
to talk about in his cups when he's drinking with all these other old guys,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because he had nothing.
He's
Yeah.
the guy who just wanted to get into the business for fame.
Pretty
There's
much.
actually a very particular line too that he says where he asks Arthur how much blood have they spilled in your name, and Arthur's like, pretty good amount. And so I feel like I think that also leads into his decision to cut off the head of this guy. Like a lot of it is very cavalier about like, these guys are killing for Arthur, I should kill for Arthur. So I think it makes sense. Yeah.
I mean, the Green Knight even proffers his head in a certain way. Like he immediately throws down his axe, gets on his knees, and bends his head forward and turns to the side, as you're instructed to do when you're being beheaded. If you're not being put onto a block,
It's a target.
yeah, he's creating that target. So it's just like, oh, where am I gonna stab you? Am I gonna do this? Am I gonna do this? If this guy's gonna get down on his knees and then offer his neck, and then this, I mean, Garwin is obviously agitated. Like you see it when he like gets up and he says he's gonna do it for Arthur. He's very agitated and frustrated, and he's not okay. And I think it's because he's so nervous, and he wants to, like Brent was saying, he needs to prove himself. And so he goes for the big swing and cuts the head off of the Green Knight, and he's like, okay, this guy's dead, and I've done it for my king. But I don't think anybody expected the Green Knight to pick up his head and then get back on his horse and then ride out.
Right.
That's
I
the
don't think
thing. And that's why I think, I was thinking at the same time too. I was like, why didn't he just like cut him a little bit or something like that,
Because he would have been made fun of.
yeah.
Yeah, and nobody would be talking about him. It's like
Exactly.
I said, he goes to
Yeah.
the bar to go get drunk later, and everybody's talking about how Sir Gawain cut this knight's head off, and that's what it was for.
Every single
Is-
knight there had their own legend, and he wanted his own.
Yeah.
He didn't realize how that
I
was
would be
really
very
gonna end.
curious to know, because all the knights at the round table obviously have names. I would be very curious to know if they like casted those guys like specifically as particular knights. Like Lancelot is this dude. And...
Well, the interesting thing with the IMDb and Wikipedia is not everyone is named in the Arthurian legend way. Like Morgan Le Fay is mother.
Mhm.
and
Very
King
interesting.
or King Arthur is just king.
Yeah.
That's-
Really?
yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, that's so weird.
Oh,
Yeah.
and I forgot you had fuck her, what was her name? Lisa Aaron as
Mhm.
Genevieve
Yep.
from Game of Thrones.
Yep.
Huh?
Was that her name? It was
yeah,
Lysa.
Ellis?
Lysa.
Yeah,
Lysa.
Lysa, the one who always looks, and I feel bad saying it, she always looks sickly.
She
She
does
looks
look
ill.
sickly.
Very
She
sick.
She looks
is
ill. She looks like it's so bad, but she's a fantastic actress.
She is a
I've
really
been,
good actress.
I've
Mhm.
been drawing a lot lately, and there, like, I can't help but like look at figures like I would draw them. And there's a scene with her specifically talking to him, and she's looking at him at this angle, and her neck is like way thinner than anybody's neck ever should be. And I was like, how the what the fuck? Literally a moment where I was just staring at her neck in this scene where she's like craned it and she's like looking at him. And I was like, how the fuck is your neck so how are you holding your head up?
Who is this? What's her name? Because I can't remember.
Kate Dickey is her
Oh,
name.
oh yeah, 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 yeah.
So the interesting thing, Kate Dickey and Ralph Ineson were both in The Witch.
The Witch,
Or The
yeah,
Village.
yeah.
Ralph
Oh,
Ineson
really?
played the Green Knight, who is also the father.
That's
in-
where I recognize his
who has
voice.
the deep
Got a
voice.
Yeah,
great
he's
the
voice.
gravelly,
voice.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
A24 is kind of cycling some casting.
I mean, that's fine. I mean,
they're
directors and producers
fantastic.
do it, so.
Yeah, yeah.
So I guess after that, nothing really happens in the nothing of interest to me besides him, having made a name for himself happens in the quick year. The only thing that really stands out in that quick year is that it's clear that Gawain is like, I don't really want this fame.
Mhm.
It's-
Doesn't want
it
like
seems
this.
like he really
yeah.
doesn't give a fuck. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, he knows
that
what he has to
whole-
do.
That whole year further cements his like indecision on everything. He won't
Mhm.
commit to the person he's with. The
Oh, he won't
prostitute.
commit to the prostitute.
He won't
Right.
commit really to this quest. He's just like, well, I made a choice. Gotta
Mhm.
live with it.
You know, in that year she could have grown her hair out though. That was a bit of a thatched, that was a bit of a thatched coconut wig going on. That's not a good look.
yeah.
I'm just saying.
It was the style of the time, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, just let the shears handle.
What God can't.
Stand in front of
It
a
was-
scythe and it just. Whoosh,
It
you know?
wasn't a pandemic year for them, so they didn't just let it go.
Oh, yeah.
That was a
They
that
had
was a Black
barbers.
Death haircut, right?
Black Death haircut is flying at the
Death
Winnie
haircut.
Roast,
The Winnie
dude.
Roast.
Great, man.
Black Death
New
haircut.
band name. New band.
Well, I
Going
thought
in
it
the
was-
list.
I thought that was really interesting to include in the movie, where like his, the prostitute he'd been seeing is like, why don't we start dating? And he was like, I could give you all the gold in the world. She's like, I already have your gold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really great comeback.
Mhm.
But I thought there was some good throwbacks to that scene at the end. But just in general, I thought it was really interesting that he like just didn't say anything in response to her request.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought that was like brilliant,
Yeah.
right? That's
Mhm.
brilliant writing,
Mhm.
where she's doing all the talking and he's not saying anything, and I thought
Mhm.
that was fantastic.
That was brutal, dude. Because you do like
'Cause
you
you're sitting there,
like
you're
her
like,
a
what's he gonna
lot.
say?
yeah.
What's he gonna say? What's he gonna say? And he doesn't say anything, and that was the best way to handle that scene, man.
Yeah. Mhm.
Absolutely. Well, it's Alicia Vikander. She's a
Yeah.
robot.
But
I like
I
that
do
one.
feel that scene was able to show that he wasn't deciding one way or the other. He just couldn't make a choice for himself, and that's probably been his whole life.
Yeah.
Why he didn't have his own story. Like he
Yeah,
wasn't.
Never made a decision.
He wasn't an immediate no. He wasn't a yes. He's just like
He doesn't know
he,
what
he
to.
didn't want to make the choice.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, that's actually great foreshadowing. Yeah, because it pretty much leads up to exactly the way he feels at the very end, where he's like,
Yeah.
But I mean, like, here's what I understand about. Not to jump to the end, but we might as well jump to the end. I mean, because the story, they leave on good terms, and
Mhm.
he's just, I guess they left. That was the purpose of the ending for the film, was to leave it ambiguous. Like,
yeah.
what
So
happened?
So in the original story, it's actually the Lord of the House. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce his name because good Lord. But it's the Lord of the House that was putting the show on kind of to like get Garwin his story, right? He's like gets him out and has him prove himself, and it's like a test.
Ah.
And then at the very end, he's about to cut Garwin's head off, and he's like, "All right, you passed the test, you're in, and you can be king now." When Arthur dies, and so that entire thing happens. So I really like how they kind of turn that on its head, and it's not really a test. Like it's really interesting because I mean, again, it's one of those very important bits of dialogue where Garwin is getting, he goes and he sees the Green Knight, and the Green Knight wakes up and he's like, "All right, get on your knees. I'm gonna give you the same blow that you gave to me, and I'm gonna cut your head off." And Garwin's like, "Whoa, that's it?"
Yeah.
And the Green Knight's like, "What else is
ought
there?"
be?
Yeah.
Yeah, what else ought there be? What a
love that.
fucking great line. And then they
Yeah.
then they go into this kind of like, what else could it be? Like if he had lived, if
Yeah.
he decided to live. And it is really depressing. It's incredibly dark because it shows
Yeah,
him as
his
a
life
terrible
kinda
king, a terrible
Yes.
husband. He runs Camelot into the ground. It's his sons die. And he never loved his wife. He leaves her, or I guess he has the wife, his
Was
queen
that the
wife, and then he
same-
has.
Which is Winifred, his the
Mhm.
wife
Yeah.
that he
Hey, wasn't that the
marries is
chick in the-
Winifred.
Wasn't that the chick in the water, right?
Yeah, that's Winifred. Yeah.
Skull
Yeah.
Lady. Is that
Yeah.
color?
Mhm.
Skull Lady. Otherwise
As
known
she's
Winifred.
colloquially known by you.
Yeah, she's known now as Skull. If I say Skull Lady, you know what I'm talking about now.
All
It's funny. So it's funny, like it's that we're talking about this movie now. I like it more now than because before I was kind of 5-ish. I know we're not
Oh, yeah.
to rating yet, but I was kind of 5-ish. But now the more we talk about it, the more I'm actually really liking this movie, which is interesting. That a movie, and I like this. What I like about movies, or like about stuff like this, where your first impression of it, you're not sure what to make of it yet. You got to let it
Mhm.
sink in. Again, like 2001 is a prime example of a movie. It's got to let it. 2001 took me a couple of years to really process and really start to love that film. I had to read the book. I had to give it like a year or so and then watch it again. Do a bunch of internet research. This isn't quite that bad, but now that we're talking, I really and like the scene you were talking about, I remember was talking about where he's talking to the Alicia Vikander when she's the prostitute character. That whole
Yeah.
stuff is great. I think Brent, you were saying it where he couldn't make his mind up. That was kind of his whole story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was great foreshadowing.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So,
it was.
yeah, I'm like I said, the more we talk about it, the more I'm actually liking this film. I was kind of unsure.
Yeah, I mean,
no,
it took-
no, I will say just a quick correction. The woman he marries in his like epilogue dream is not Winifred. The
It's
headless
not?
lady. No, they're
Oh,
just
okay.
both redheads. The Winifred
Oh.
lady was in Falcon and Winter Soldier as the leader of that.
I said that I couldn't tell if that was the same actress.
No,
or
it's
the
He
just
has
same-
the
a-
exact same hairstyle and everything.
Yeah, they're just both redheads.
Huh.
So in terms of characters being connected, those aren't.
Mm, okay.
Like, she wasn't brought back for that.
Oh,
Was
okay.
Alicia Vikander? She was the
The wife,
Lord's wife
Yeah.
and
Alicia
the
Vikander-
prostitute.
Um,
Was she Brent?
Yes.
No,
He was both.
No,
I
no, no.
think so.
Are you fact checking
Absolutely.
this? Are you fact checking this?
Wikipedia does say that Alicia Vikander as Essel and the lady.
100%.
So,
she was both.
so that's
Okay.
that's really
Wow.
interesting.
Wow, I did not
And
pick up on
that's-
that at all.
Yeah,
Really?
I
and
didn't either. They
And
look
I
No.
do
so
wonder
different
if
to
they
me.
were trying to portray her as two separate characters.
That's
or linking
actually-
them because of the witch aspect with Morgan Le Fay.
I think they were trying to connect them because of what his decision is towards them. I mean, they both represent objects of lust. The prostitute being a prostitute, and her idea of them ending up together and being a couple and being married and starting a family and that kind of thing. And then as the Lord's wife, as this kind of like seductress, who's trying to tempt him, to kind of stray from maybe his quest a little bit. Like it was a little ambiguous there.
That's a
what
very
her-
interesting casting choice to have.
Yeah,
the two
that's
separate
really
characters
interesting.
play.
I didn't pick up on that at all. That's
Yeah, good
Yeah.
call.
very,
Yeah.
very well done. I really like that.
It
No,
was a
you guys-
Guy
very,
decided to do that. That's
Yeah.
fascinating.
Oh,
it
you
was a
guys are
very
super
uncomfortable
dumb
scene.
for not seeing that.
Hey, okay.
Yeah.
We
I
picked
wanna
up
hear it.
that.
It was a very uncomfortable scene watching her seduce him
Mhm.
with the like, "Hey, I remade your mom's sash. Like,
Yeah.
take it for that whole thing." It was actually very. There's a scene in Evangelion which I've been telling Daryl to watch. It's an anime that has a very similar cutaway shot of like a scene like that. and
Somebody
every
gets a
s-
handy on a belt.
there's
Glues it to his
a sh-
hand.
there's a shot of semen specifically.
Yeah.
And like everything that leads up to that, and then suddenly there's just like nothing super suggestive in that other than the dialogue, and then suddenly just like semen on screen every time. Like there's I've
Semen
only
on screen
seen
is
it
playing at
two
the windows
things.
too.
Those
It is
so shot of semen.
a shot of semen, dude. I mean seriously, like I don't know what it is, but like for maybe it's just because it's so uncommon, but like I've seen this twice now, and both times have been so jarring to me to just be like, oh my god, like
You've
more
seen
so
semen
than
twice is what you're saying.
anything else that could have been put on screen. Just the fact that his belt was covered in cum, I was like, oh. I mean, it was shocking. Like it was
You don't
literally, like,
really get that a lot in movies, I will say.
It is
I've
interesting
seen
comparing.
it twice.
It is interesting comparing the Arthurian tale to how they portrayed it in the movie, because that whole scene with the Lord and the lady, like in the tale, the Lord proposes a bargain. He's going to go hunting every day and give Gawain everything he catches, and then Gawain in return will give whatever he gets for the day.
Right.
And over a few days, like the lady gives him a kiss, 2 kisses, 3 kisses, and he has to return that to the Lord in a vague way.
Mhm.
But that's not portrayed in the same way in the movie.
No, they
It's
just
not-
like straight up Mac.
yeah.
Mhm.
And so it's interesting to see like how they were trying to translate that story into this moral tale with Gawain, and just
Really-
jumping straight ahead.
Real
What
quick, I
really
just want to
sucks-
say, hey Steven, how's it going? Steven says that he just tuned in and I hear semen on screen. Thank you for
Nice.
joining us
Yeah.
at that exact moment.
It's hard for me with that actor. I can't even think of his name now. Every
Oh,
time I see him-
Brent, fact check.
Joel Edgerton.
That's it.
yeah, Joel
yes.
Edgerton. Every time I
Yeah.
see him, I can't get out of my mind. This is my girlfriend Baru. Every fucking time I see that actor,
What's
I don't care
that?
where he's in. He played Uncle Ben. He played young Uncle Ben in the fucking.
Oh, I keep forgetting that he was in that.
He's a great actor, but every time I see him, I imagine him saying that stupid line. This is my girlfriend Baru. There's no girlfriends in Star
Interesting.
Wars. Stupid ass
I
girlfriend.
completely forgot he was in Star Wars.
You don't date in
I
Star Wars.
can't
Either
forget
you're
it.
related or she's a
Yeah,
princess.
you're
Okay,
either kissing your
There's
sister
no-
or you're married already.
there's no in between. No in between.
Anyways, so yeah, because if you read the story, so she kisses him, and then dude kisses Sir Garwan,
Yep.
but he never jacked off on the belt. So shouldn't he have given him that too? Shouldn't there be
You should have.
a
Here's-
forced jack
I
off
think,
scene
so I will say, I think the implication,
on his belt?
Like a two-way flashlight kind of deal going on.
I think
The Lord
the
should
Stuck
have
in his
pres-
hand.
The Lord should have prevented the fox, and then Gawain should have just immediately just started jerking it.
You
It should have been.
just gone in.
just fucking
There was some jizz on the fox.
And
Andy on
yeah,
the horse, man.
and Uncle Ben would be like, "What the hell? Hey, these are the rules, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, you said you wanted what
I don't make
your
the
wife
rules."
He
gives me.
keeps saying
Okay.
Uncle Ben. It's
When he
Uncle
had
Owen.
that bag, he should.
Uncle Owen.
It's
Oh, sorry, Uncle Owen. Why do I keep saying Uncle Ben? I meant
Uncle
Ben-
Ben is
Uncle
from
Owen.
fucking Spider-Man.
that Ben Kenobi. Doesn't really
Right.
matter, Ben.
They're both sages.
Yeah,
It's
it's
fine.
old guys giving advice. Okay,
Yeah.
So I
Both
think
sages.
my interpretation of that whole experience was literally that even though Uncle Owen is a provider for the household, his wife or his lady does not actually love him. And so I think what it was I'm going to get you like all these like nice meals, and in exchange you have to give me what you've received in the house, which is genuine affection. And so
Wow.
I think
Okay.
what he was doing was providing or taking, I guess, genuine affection from Gawain before he like goes off to the Green Chapel. And that's why it was just a kiss on the lips as opposed to like a hand job, was because he was like, I'm going to take what's mine, and he makes out with him. And you'll notice that like Gawain doesn't really like pull away or anything. Like if I don't know if somebody who you didn't want to kiss you has tried to make a move on you, you don't generally just stand there like it really seemed
Mhm.
like he was like there for the kiss, which I think again is part of the implication that it's like what I'm taking from you is what you received, which is genuine affection. And so
Huh.
that's my best guess as to what was actually happening in that scene.
And so
What about what was up with mother-in-law? The old bat with the blindfold on the whole time. That was weird.
No, I
Oh,
think
that's
that
also
she's
Arthurian
actually-
legend.
That was
Yeah.
supposed to be Morgan Le Fay, his own mom.
I was
Oh.
gonna say, I think that
Hmm.
was his mom.
Yeah.
I think that's why he was so uncomfortable, is because his mom was watching him.
No
And
wonder
it's-
she had the blindfold on.
And so that's some of my questions here is in those
Yeah, 'cause
scenes.
it was
there for
glued
the
to her
hand job.
eyes.
Oh yeah, she was
It-
there in the hand job room.
She was
Yeah,
there
yeah.
for the
She
hand
was
job.
in the hand job room.
And-
She was in the room all the times, man.
And so that's
In
some of my
the
questions.
hand
It
job
seems
room.
like they were very wishy-washy in how strict they stuck with the tale. Because do you feel like in the movie that the Lord was the Green Knight? Was it a test on that side of things, or was the Lord a completely separate character?
See, that's what I think. I think the Lord in the movie was actually a separate character.
That's how it feels to me too.
Yeah.
Even though,
Oh,
even though
in the actual legend, the hunter is supposed to be
yes,
the
the
Green
Lord
Knight?
is, and it's part of the test. He's testing Gawain to see if he's honorable in the appeal,
Oh.
that
Mhm.
return. And
I
he-
didn't get that impression.
He
I
sure
mean, I
knew a
also know
lot about the Green
legends.
Knight. He sure knew a lot about the chapel, but he seemed to
Yeah.
know. And he was like totally cool. They're like, oh yeah, the chapel over there. It's got a couple of you got days, bro. You
Yeah.
can chill.
Well,
It-
which
it
I thought was
sure-
really interesting too, because I was like, okay, this is gonna be the part of the movie where they fall into the trap. You know, what's the scene in the Odyssey where they get stuck on the Lilac Island or whatever it is,
Yeah.
the Lily
Yeah.
Island
Yeah,
or
I
whatever.
thought that's what it
The
was.
Lily
too,
Eaters.
actually,
Yeah, and so that's what I thought this was gonna be. I thought he was
Lotus
gonna get
Eaters, too.
trapped here, and it was gonna be he's gonna have to get out of that. Or Lotus Eaters, thank you. Where he has to get out, you know, and escape or something like that. But I thought it was a very interesting direction where again they're taking it for a very interpretive direction, and they're just like telling another part of the story, but they're telling it in their own way, you know. So that's
but
why.
some of it in that specific instance felt like it was consistent with the tale. Like the lady was a witch, the mother, the old lady was his mother potentially, but then they veered off a different direction with the Lord's character, right?
A little bit.
Yeah.
bit.
so
I
it's
thought-
so it's hard to make sense of that for me after.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
whole thing was definitely so I didn't know the legend, and I haven't had time to look it up on Wikipedia. So I guess definitely it feels like that is not true to the story, because the Green Knight is very clearly a separate entity from the hunter
in the movie.
in the
Mhm.
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I will say that he never actually gets his head chopped off in the movie.
Mhm.
So I think that that's more of an In Bruges style ending, where it's like, did he die? Did he not die? Maybe it's not as important. Like, it's really all that's important
Yeah.
is that he chose to die. And we're
Yeah,
just
yeah.
gonna
I think you got a good point. And because if the original story, he just doesn't cut his head off. He just put the little cut on the back of his neck, and he has to wear the sash of shame or whatever, and go back to Camelot or whatever.
No, he gets a sash back to show that he actually went and did it, and he has earned his honor. Yeah, and so I
Is that
mean
what
the
it is?
Green,
Okay.
yeah, the
Yeah.
Green Knight and Gawain are like best buddies after that. They're like super big pals.
I
And also
thought
the
that
Green
was
Knight is
where
in
you
other
let-
tales.
They left on good
Yeah.
terms, and like,
Yeah.
hey, we'll see you at Christmas.
Yeah,
kinda thing.
see you for the next year's game.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
Don't cut my fucking head off again. Try for something a little bit
Like
easier.
next year, paper cut guy. Okay,
Yeah.
let's just take this down a notch.
That's
It's not called Sir Gawain versus the Green Knight. It's
Yeah, that's true.
that would be a very different story.
Falcon
They'd fight
and
on a
the
battle
Winter
cruise and then
Soldier.
go to the center of the earth.
What I
Dude,
thought
next
was really
time it
funny
could be a
was
thumb war.
I thought that it's a thumb war. I thought that it was actually I thought Gawain was the Green Knight. And so when
Me
he's
too.
walking around with his fucking yellow cape on, I was like, why isn't he wearing green? What's going on here?
The color palettes in this film, man. Fuck.
Mm.
Beautiful.
Just beautiful.
very
Yeah, just fucking like I said, man. Back to that real quick. The visuals were absolutely, and I knew that going in just from watching the preview, which I'm glad in the preview told you nothing, but probably
Mhm.
because the story's interpretive anyway.
What is there to tell?
Yeah.
Exactly. Like there's nothing to give away. You're part of the story again, which is another thing I like about this film. You're part of the story. You really are. But dude, just fucking beautiful. God, it was everyone who shot this motherfucker and colored it, and the like I said, all the acting was incredible.
And the music, the score was.
Oh yeah,
Score's great.
it was haunting. Yeah.
And think how hard it is to act when you're kind of just, what is this about? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because I'm sure everybody was just pretending they knew what it was about, so they didn't look like assholes. You know, like when you show up at a
Right.
job and you don't know what anyone's talking about, you're like, oh yeah, the thing. But it still felt like everybody knew what was going on.
Well,
You know
I
what
think
mean?
that
I mean, maybe
yeah,
they did.
then
I don't know.
them
just-
approaching it like a stage play, I think really
Yeah.
helped that, because people again, this is a thing that I feel like happens in theater. Like a lot of plays I've seen do this that are not like the like the Invalid or whatever, like like more brainy plays. People talk past each other constantly. Like they're not actually talking to each other. They're delivering lines of dialogue so that the audience can hear them. And so I feel like that happened a lot in this movie. Most of the times that people were talking, it really didn't feel like I'm saying this to you and you're saying this to me. It felt like words were being spoken so that I could hear them and then try to like piece them together with like what the rest of the bullshittery that's going on screen.
Is this the same guy that did? Is the same director that did Killing of a Sacred Deer?
No,
No.
Oh,
but
that
Phil
was some
White-
other. No. Fuck
Yeah.
that movie.
Oh, I fucking hate that movie so much. Oh my god, you want to piss me off? Show me the fucking Killing of a Sacred
That
Deer.
I will say that was the movie I had on my first pandemic virtual date. We like both got takeout
God.
and watched that movie because she wanted to see a fucked up movie. And I'm like, all right, let's go.
This is
Yeah.
it.
This is a fucked up movie.
Wow.
Yeah, not to veer off too, but Killing of a Sacred Deer is another movie that's got great acting and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And the main kid, I hate that, and he was in this movie.
Yeah.
I
yeah.
hate that kid so much.
He's so
because
whiny.
He's such a, but he's
Yeah.
a great actor.
Yeah.
But
The,
man, do I hate that kid so much.
he goes in on a character.
Yeah.
He's,
Wasn't
he's
the-
he's a
Oh,
great
I see.
actor, and that's why I'm saying. But he was annoying in this movie. He was. I wanted to strangle him in Killing a
Yeah.
Sacred Deer. I couldn't
he's going to be in
stand this-
MCU Eternals next, by the way.
Oh, really?
Spoil the, Eternals.
He's actually in what's the one on the Irish beach?
Oh, Dunkirk.
Dunkirk.
All the-
French
Dunkirk.
Beach.
He was in Dunkirk,
Yep.
French beach.
That's a
Mhm.
French
Okay.
beat. You know how Ireland had all those
French
battles that
beach.
took place during World War II in it?
Isn't that where D-Day happened?
Well,
Wasn't that Newfoundland?
isn't
They had to go from Britain to Ireland to save.
isn't that they didn't escape from Irish Britain?
Nope.
Anyways, nope.
Other channel.
I was looking for the leprechauns.
There
no
were
wonder
two
there
Different World War.
directions that you could have gone.
Oh,
I don't know why they didn't just take the channel.
You
That's
know,
how you get out of.
right?
That's how you get out of France.
That's
so.
right. They were all trying to fucking take boats. They should have just taken a train. Uh,
well, Harry
Uh,
Styles was there, and so.
Yeah, so that made it better.
Anyways,
yeah. So,
are we to ratings or?
well, I
Uh,
guess the only thing we didn't talk about was the thieves. Did we have any feelings about the thieves' first encounter? A kindness?
Oh,
I forgot about the thieves because I
Yeah.
kind of didn't.
I think that was a little bit more passable of a story, personally. It kind of like had to, maybe it was one of those things that kind of had to happen so the rest of the other little side quests could happen. Because like he loses the axe, he needs to get the axe back. He loses his sash.
Yeah.
They're at that.
I
point,
don't know
he has
why
to get the
that-
sash back.
That very significant part of the movie doesn't feel significant to me.
Which
right?
is weird. That
It
is
almost
also
like it exists just so that like
To take his
Howard
shit
Hughes-
away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he needs to get fucked immediately.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but okay, so take it as a test. If he had actually passed the test and given a significant
Killed everybody.
offering, would they have
Oh.
left him alone? Like it didn't seem like that would have been.
I don't
an
think
option.
No, I think that was the
I don't think so.
option.
Not the way
It
that
didn't
they
seem like
had
a
it set up.
passable test.
Mm.
Yeah.
There it is, the Kobayashi Maru.
Mhm.
Well, the
Unpassable
Kobayashi-
test.
Well, unless he had given the guy literally everything he owned, because that's clearly what they wanted.
Yeah.
And that's what they
It-
took.
It definitely
what they
didn't
took.
feel like something that he made a bad decision on.
But
So
there
I-
was that
context of the rest of the
very
story.
there was that very interesting moment during that scene, which I thought was fascinating, where the camera does a
I'm
full
just gonna say.
360,
Yes.
comes back to him and he's bones, and then it does another 360, comes back to him and he's alive. They do that exact same shot at the very end during the dream sequence where he's like living his whole life right before
Mm.
he kills himself, because they do the full thing where it goes all the way around and then it's just him by himself on his throne. He rips off the sash and then his head falls off. And so I just thought it was interesting that they repeated that camera shot because it's such an obvious shot to like literally fucking like.
Well, I was gonna say
It does
brief
it does emphasize throughout the whole movie that it's about choice and what choice you take
Yeah.
and what road you take and what could happen one way or the other.
Yeah, like
Well,
he
I think
could
the
lay
point of
there.
that part was, it shows him he's all tied up, he's laying on the ground, it pans around, he's bones, it pounds around again, and now that's what's him seeing what's going to happen to him.
If he
And it
doesn't
gives
move.
him the strength.
Mm.
Yeah, if I don't get out of this fucking thing, I'm going to be a sack of bones next to this tree. And that's what was cool about that part. I thought that was a great visual way of getting this character to get off his ass and survive.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It took
Yeah.
him realizing I'm going to be a sack of bones, which I
Mhm.
thought was a brilliant way to get get him motivated.
So,
Oh
so
my
do you
God.
feel like those scenes that we're literally seeing are his internal visualization of what will happen?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
that,
think
yeah,
that
that
is
might be.
probably what it is, and that's probably the giveaway that they're trying to convey with the spin around at the end of his,
Yeah.
So we're like,
hypothetical
once it
life.
spins around once, we're entering his kind of vision, and then it spins around again, and we're back to reality.
Yeah.
But very
Something like
subtly
that.
Could
done.
be.
Something. Yeah.
Something like that. I don't know necessarily that they do it exactly that way the second time, but yeah, definitely it's conveying some sense of like, I'm making you dizzy. I don't know, like.
Wasn't that fast? Wasn't like
but-
woo.
It wasn't like
It's
World
fucking, "Wah!"
Willy Wonka.
All right.
But I mean, that's just a great example of like this movie kind of just like one thing I really, really liked about it is that this movie just kind of is. I did
Yeah.
read something that was interesting. This movie was supposed to come out quite some time ago, maybe either like a year or 6 months ago. But then with COVID happening, they pushed the release date back about 6 months or a year or however long it was. And so the director went back and started editing it again and actually spent time. So I think a lot of the decisions that maybe you were questioning maybe were producers, like the titles and stuff. It was probably all him. It was probably him just like, this
Probably.
is to make it a little bit more edible, of a movie and just kind of like, because I think if he didn't have the titles, it would feel a lot more disjointed. And for some reason, having those titles in there kind of like broke it up in very edible chunks, and you can like kind of get through it, and when the next title screen comes up, you're like, okay, we're done with that bit of story. Let's go into the next bit. Because it's very just straightforward. This dude's just on a quest and he has to go and do this thing, and certain things
I hated
happen.
the titles. I thought they were very distracting.
Oh, I like
liked him.
titles like that.
I
Because-
liked him.
To me, like I
Mhm.
said, the whole movie being kind of like a fever dream, I didn't need those.
Okay.
I didn't want them.
I-
needed distraction.
I
Just-
initially liked the
me
titles
watch
until there was one of them that I literally couldn't understand what it said.
I started saying that, I'm looking at him like,
An
glasses
exchange
working?
of winnings.
And
Yes,
Exchange-
that was the
yes,
one.
Okay,
Yeah,
there we
that was
go.
the one.
Of winnings.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank
Which
you.
looked like it potentially said an exchange of wee.
No, it looked
like
like
there's
it
like
said
three-
zig, 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 zig.
yeah, there's like 30 eyes in this word. What is this word?
Yeah. an
Is this
exchange of-
Icelandic?
Yeah.
They got a lot
It's
of eyes.
because the kerning for the ends were not connected. And so it
Yeah.
looked like every single line for the ends was another eye. And winnings is like eyes and ends only.
Mm.
And so it's just like, what the fuck is a weeg? But yeah, that I will say that I think if I tried to write a screenplay for a movie like for a story like The Green Knight, I would have tried to make things fit together more succinctly. I think that a lot of us feel that way when it comes to storytelling, is like fitting pieces of the puzzle together. And you learn that a lot in film class too. It's like when you're writing a story, it's like everything should matter and everything should have like a thing. Whereas this, I feel like it's almost like there's a concept in story writing where there's hard magic and soft magic. And like hard magic is like Harry Potter-ish stuff where it's like there's very specific rules to like how the magic works. And then there's like soft magic like Lord of the Rings, where it's like, fucking Yoen can just say some shit and then horses that are made out of water come down the river and fuck up the Dementors.
Arwen, not Eowyn.
Yeah, whatever. I also called them Dementors, so fuck off. And I think
And I barely
that,
noticed that you called them Dementors. So
that it's because I said the other name wrong.
you know the worst part
I
about prison? The Dementors.
Dementors.
Dementors. And so this, I think, is an example of soft storytelling, I guess is what I would try to call it. Because it's like
That makes sense.
Danon has it totally nailed. Like most of this stuff is not meant to be taken at face value or literally at all. It's all supposed to be interpreted. And I feel like that is a much bigger feat when you make something that is entertaining and still feels meaningful, when in general, the actual linearity or just unfolding of the story is imparsible. Like there's no way that I could sit down and explain what really happens in this movie to somebody. I could explain what it's about. I could say like the things that literally happen on screen, but I couldn't actually tell the story in the same way that the movie does. And I think that there's something really impressive about doing that well. So
yeah.
That was something that really stood out to me about this particular movie.
I mean, that kind of like ties back into it being Arthurian legend, and the fact that the legends existed. They were kind of a lot like Bible stories in a way. They're moral tales that you tell people to show them how they should act.
Yeah.
And so a lot of that is up to interpretation. You know, it's straightforward story, but what you're supposed to glean out of it is like it's chivalry and acts of heroism, and you earn a place in this world for yourself. You know, that's kind of what it really is. And so this movie is kind of like a visual representation of that. You know, as opposed to like a written word. It's you know, a lot of it is just shown. There's not a lot of dialogue in this movie. I'd be interested to see how long the script is. You know, and how many pages it is.
Yeah,
This is
actually,
11.
that's a really good question. It's probably like 20 pages long. Honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I bet the page 3 stuff happens.
yeah. Page 4, the fox talks.
The fox talks.
There's
Page
honestly,
5, a
Front of the
handy in
boat.
the bed
Yeah.
next
I
to
was
grandma.
I was thinking about this. I think a lot of the reason that the movie takes as long as it does is because they gave the lead actor, I forget what's the lead actor's name?
Dev
Dev
Patel.
Patel?
Mhm.
Dev
Dev Patel.
Patel. I think they gave him stage directions, and they just filmed him for as long as it took him to do that thing. And specifically where this stands out is that scene where he gets off his ass and tries to uncut himself with the sword.
Hmm.
I think they were
It's a
literally
long,
like,
it's a long scene.
yeah, now crawl over to your shit. And then they just start like rolling. And he's
They
like,
literally made him do it.
and
Yeah.
he literally had to do it. And it took
Yeah.
him as long as it took that actor to get over there. And it's a long scene as a result, but I don't think they planned it to necessarily be a long scene. It was probably just like one line on the screenplay. And the director was just like, okay, do that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's another movie that came out. I think it's called Stranded, but it came out on
Big
Netflix
Ben
not too
camera
long ago.
face.
Is this you as a director?
This is me
Um,
looking into
There
the
was a camera.
But
Lens face.
there's a movie called Stranded, I believe, but it's got Anna Kendrick and Daniel Day Kim and one other dude. And it takes place in space. It came out like last year or the year before. It's actually a really good movie. I liked it a lot. Where they find an astronaut
Stowaway.
who's stowaway,
Yeah.
thank you,
Yeah.
who's not supposed to be
Stowaway.
on the spaceship. And they're
Yeah.
all freaking out because they don't have the oxygen or the supplies or anything like that to. Oh, and not Jessica Chastain, but the girl that looks like her.
Tony Collette?
That's it. She was redheaded in this movie.
You think
I don't know.
Jessica looks
I don't know.
like Jessica
I don't know. I was
Chastain?
thinking of
wouldn't-
Jessica
I wouldn't go
Chastain.
with that, but Tony Collette
You
is
figured it out though.
fantastic.
So.
Yeah.
The
Well,
fact-
he's
well,
got
I think
Wikipedia
Brent
open.
just knew
Yeah,
who
yeah.
it was and just completely skipped
Oh.
past the Jessica Chastain.
I don't
He's
see
just
that
like,
at all.
I don't know what the fuck this
I
kid's
saw-
talking
saw
about.
the
I know who
movie
it
a
is.
couple times already.
Oh, because
Okay.
Bryce Dallas and Jessica Chastain get mistaken for each other all the time.
That
makes
I would
sense.
see. I don't know where I was going with that, but anyways. So that's actually a really good movie. I really enjoyed it, and one of the things I really liked about it is that they let the actors act. There's a lot of movies that's been going on for like 20, 30 years where they do so much editing in between like
yeah.
this angle and this angle and this angle. It's just like, just put the camera on them and let them do their fucking job. That's why you hired them. Just let them carry the scene. And so there's a lot of really long shots in Stowaway that I really liked because it's just three of them together in a corridor and the camera just dollies in very slowly for like a minute or two and just lets them act their lines. And it's way more entertaining and immersive than is if you were to use the 180
seconds.
rule and like cut around, and like show this, show that. Just let them do what they do best and just show it. Like it drives me nuts about action scenes all the time too. Is like a lot of the action scenes that they shoot for like Marvel films and stuff like that, they're unbroken. There's the knife fight scene in The Winter Soldier is an unbroken thing that both Sebastian Stan and Chris Evans learned how to do so they could do it on location in one take. They shot it in one take with 3 different cameras and cut around. And it's just like, just let them do what they're supposed to do. And this
He fights
movie,
Bucky?
when he's fighting Bucky. So this movie, The Green Knight, also had a lot of that, where they just kind of like let Dev Patel do what he's supposed to do. They let, all the other people in this movie just kind of like act and be. And the sets too, the sets were incredible. And just let the locations exist in the frame for a very long time. I mean, when he gets to the Green Knight, he's early. And he's just sitting there waiting for him to wake up. He gets there during the day and has to wait all night and to the next day for him to wake up.
Just like Christmas.
Just like Christmas. And you're just waiting for your presents of
Right.
a beheading.
Also,
And
that scene where he walks into the Green Chapel, And this is the scene that I was talking about earlier that looks like a beautiful painting because it's the leaves around the door and then his silhouette standing in the doorway and like the hallway coming back towards the audience. And it sets on that. He walks up, he stands in frame, and then it just stays there for like 30 seconds. And it's like the cinematographer just knew that this was a gorgeous shot, and the director was like, we're just gonna keep all of the footage of that specific like scene because it to me it stood out so much because like this I literally as soon as it happened on screen I was like, man, that's gorgeous. And then it's just like
They must have spent fucking 12 hours a shot, man, for 1 second. It's they were all obviously very planned out to look exactly like how they did, right?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
You know,
No,
none of that
look
was an accident.
gorgeous.
None of that was an accident.
Not
So,
it couldn't have been. I mean, not for as beautiful as it was. Like
No.
it's like it looks like this, like like artists create storyboards, right? And then they give them to the director. It's like they were like, okay, we're gonna make this exact storyboard and we're gonna hang on it, and we're just gonna like keep that because it's pretty. And fuck, dude, it was pretty, man. I loved it.
Yeah.
I want to go back and find that screenshot and fucking hang it on my wall, dude. It looks so good.
I mean,
But
there's
anyways,
that
yeah, go
scene
ahead.
like right afterwards where Gawain is looking up at the Green Knight, and it's just like
The
a
same
very
thing,
long, the same thing, and it's a very long shot, and it's like it gets to the point where it's kind of uncomfortable because you're there with him, waiting nervously for the Green Knight to wake up. So it's I really appreciated that about the movie is just letting the fucking like even in the beginning that shot of the barn on fire and the animals just milling around. They just didn't really have anything to do with the story, but it really sets up what the movie is. There's a very famous quote or saying or whatever it is, but the first 15 minutes of any kind of storytelling, whether it be like a book or a movie or a video game, 15 minutes is all you have to tell the audience what kind of world they're getting themselves into. That's it. And I think the Green Knight does that in the first shot of him, on the throne, or whoever it is on the throne with the hood and the crown comes down and lights on fire. You know exactly what you're getting into because it is like that
Right.
the entire rest of the way, and you buy it hook, line, and sinker. So
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I did. I
Mhm.
certainly did.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So ratings.
Yeah, I guess we
Ratings?
can go into
Ready?
our ratings now.
I'll go
Doug?
first.
Doug?
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 Yeah, Doug, go first.
You go first.
Me?
Doug needs to
Go ahead.
collect
I'll go
his
first.
thoughts. Yeah, go ahead, David.
I'll go first. So I will say, talking about it and thinking about it after I saw the movie, I liked it way more than when I was first watching it. There's a lot of like, huh?
I would
When I was
agree with
first
that.
watching it. So I'd probably give it like a 5. Like coming out of the movie theater, it would be like there's some, it's beautifully shot. You can't really get around that. Nothing wrong with that. Like I don't know what was going on. But now that like the more that I've like sat down and thought about it and like read the story that it's based on and the Wikipedia articles, because Wikipedia, come on. And then especially like talking about it now, I'd probably give it like maybe an 8. Probably give it an 8. There's still a little bit of wonk that just comes with telling Arthurian legend stories as they are, which I do give a lot of this movie credit to because it just tells that story like almost verbatim. But it's shot beautifully, and I thought the themes were very well portrayed and also ambiguously portrayed to the point where we can have this conversation and it's like a lot of back and forth and learning about the movie after we've seen it. So yeah, I'd probably give it an 8. It's definitely something I'm gonna have to go back and watch when it comes out on streaming so I can like actually maybe fully appreciate what I saw, because I definitely didn't fully appreciate it when I first saw it, but now talking about it I definitely feel that a lot more. So yeah, that's my score.
I guess I'll go. I feel like this was a lot of movies are really entertaining and really good, and you consume them in a way that's like, yeah, I love this entertainment. This to me wasn't necessarily just entertainment. It feels like it was kind of more of a classical piece of art in the sense that like it's meant to be interpreted, it's meant to be consumed in a way where like you don't necessarily want the director to come out on stage after and be like, okay, so basically what was going on? Like, I don't feel like that would really add to my experience with this movie. It really feels more like, there was clearly some ambiguous stuff that was done that was very beautiful and like very just genuinely like fascinating to experience. how so trying to grade it in that perspective, I would say that like it's really good. I would not say it's perfect. There are definitely some moments that I think fell a little short just for my viewing, particularly in the interlude. Uh, I think that the interlude itself was just like probably the weakest part of the film.
Yeah. Talk about the naked giants.
Not just the naked giants, everything leading up to the naked giants. He eats mushrooms at one point, and like his hand does a weird thing, and then he sees the green giant or the green knight. I think all of those are
Green giant.
Green
some green beans. So that
I'd watch
particular, yeah, right. So the interlude itself, I think, was particularly weak, and I think it came close to matching a lot of the other parts of the movie in terms of like, here's some shit that's really juicy to like sink your teeth into. But it just didn't quite get there at any point. It's almost like when you listen to a song and it feels like it's gonna like really hit something, but it never quite does. That's what the entire interlude felt like that for me. So I guess grading this movie not as like, was this just a classically entertaining movie that I would watch, but instead is like, was it an artistic vision that really like makes you think and has like some juice to the fruit, where like it actually has substance when you like try to like dissect it, and you can go in all different directions. From that perspective, this is a fucking like knocked out of the park. I would probably give it 8.5, 9, honestly, just as like as a work of art. It's a really beautiful film. It's really impressive, and it's really fun so far for me. I'm very fresh off of this, but really fun to like think really hard about it. In terms of watching it again, because that's the other thing I always think about, is like, would I recommend this to people? Not unless you want to like stare at a classical painting for a while. Like if you like looking at classical paintings and coming up with your own interpretation of them, then you're going to love this movie. If that kind of art doesn't appeal to you, then this movie is absolutely not going to be interesting to you. It is not the same kind of entertainment that something like Aliens is. It is very, very different, and it is not cohesive, and it is not something that you will understand immediately, no matter how smart you are, because there's not really anything to genuinely understand. It's what you interpret instead,
or what you feel.
There's some people like. Yeah. There's a lot of people who like beginning, middle, end wrapped up in a nice little bow, and there's nothing wrong with that. But this film is not for you if that's what you like. Then
this film is absolutely not that. So far removed from that I would almost like it. It's impressive that this exists as a movie, because that's not generally what movies are or are accepted to be. So I liked it a lot as a piece of art, but I don't necessarily think that I would have liked it if I had to grade it against like, my top 10 favorite movies of all time. So that it's just a different scale that I have to use. So that's the only thing that I really wanted to say.
The artistic movie scale.
Exactly. The fucking hipster shit.
Yeah. The hipster movie scale.
All right, who's next?
Let's go with Brent.
Yeah,
Brent is a newcomer to the podcast, so let's go with yours.
Thank you guys for having me. Immediately, I would.
Okay, moving on. I'm just kidding.
Immediately, I'd say 7.5. Just because I still have some problems with the disconnect of the source material and the moral lessons learned by the character versus how they portrayed it in the movie. If we're going on visuals and score and cinematic effect and emotional effect, it would be 9 or 10. But the problem is I just find some, maybe not inconsistency, because it was consistently, for me, incorrect in how they should have handled the character. Where it didn't feel like he learned any lessons through any of the tests until the very end, when he was at death's door, basically, and was like, well, this is my last chance to do something. And it didn't feel like he would have become an honorable character with his own true legend if he wasn't at that very end point, sitting with an axe against his neck about to die. In terms of, did the character grow? I didn't feel like he grew in an organic way. And did he pass any tests? I feel like he failed every single test, which is different from the actual Arthurian tale. But the movie itself was fantastically well done. I just still have some problems with how they handled that part of the story and the character. It would have been more intriguing to see some kind of lessons learned along the way, rather than this guy just ignorant to every single thing that's happening to him until the very end. So that was the only difficult part for me, and I think that was also shared with our friend Brittany. It was just like, what was the point of that?
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't want to argue with you about or even
Sure.
talk you out of your opinion, obviously, of course, but we, everybody learns differently. Like everybody like will have a small experience and you're like, oh, I learned something from that. I think all this stuff he did not process it until he had the axe on his neck.
Yeah.
And so all the stuff, that's when he learned it, was all these experiences he had. Whatever you're supposed to learn, he learned it when he had the accident on his neck, and he had the hyper-extended fever dream of his future, which looking back now, I really love that part of the movie now that I'm thinking about it. I love
like
that
that
there
a
was
lot.
no dialogue.
Mhm.
I love that it was all visual. And like I said, I think it took all his experiences up to that point that were long and drawn out. And you're like, did he learn anything from this? It took all of that. It took the axe being on his neck. It took him being a coward multiple times, which I'm telling you, I never even walked into the fucking chapel. So
Oh, yeah.
I'm down with homeboy not wanting to have an axe on his neck and getting scared.
Yeah.
You know, I would have sent that chapel and said, "Well, dude's sleeping."
Yeah.
Out of there.
Come back next year.
But I'll definitely agree with you that end
And that's how it
scene,
felt for me. That's how it felt for me. Yeah.
I'll agree with you. That end scene, that him envisioning his future, was for me the strongest point, because it truly brought to a head who he was, and deep down as a character, he was not a good person.
No,
and
absolutely.
he would not be a good king.
Mhm.
And he was always going to make these poor decisions that would lead his country to ruin. Right. So I do agree with that. Yes.
And so for me, like, because I know in the original story he just gets a little cut in his neck and he whatever, but to me, because of that ending scene, I think he loses his head. And the Green Knight even said, Green Knight even says, time for you to lose your head, or where the hell he tells him.
He says,
He says,
off,
I think
off
he
with
did.
off with your head.
Off with
that,
your
yeah.
head. So that's a
Which
great
is
line.
like obviously a callback to fucking Alice in Wonderland for some
Yeah,
reason.
which his wife kind of
Yeah.
looked like the Red Queen.
Yeah.
I've noticed that shit, like the hair poofs of the Red
yeah.
Queen and stuff like that. I was like, there's not a Red Queen thing going on here. But anyways, so yeah, like I said, that's just how I interpret it. Like we did Boogie Nights one time, and Ben was talking about how nobody learned anything from this goddamn movie.
Yeah.
And no one was really supposed to. They did maybe a 1 or 2 degree shift. And in reality, that's, movies, like I said, they got to move shit along. You have to have this big 90-degree shift from, you have to learn something from beginning and end, and it's all going to come. But in reality, it takes years and years and years usually for you to make, and I'm not saying that this, I'm just saying that feels more real to me when it happens like that. And that I myself being a very slow processor, that made sense to me, that it did not, all the shit that he was supposed to learn did not happen until he saw his future, really. And it was because he had that axe on his neck and he was about to lose his life, was when everything solidified for him.
Yeah, and there's a couple of things that I just want to touch on really quickly that I pulled from that. Also, Steven says, I think the term for this genre is avant-garde. Absolutely. Yeah, it's way out there.
Definitely an avant-garde film.
So it's definitely, I mean, the Green Knight is absolutely a metaphor for death, 100%. And so when Gawain is there about to get his head cut off and he sees, his future, he kind of realizes, like Brent was saying, like he is a coward at heart. Like there's no way for him to redeem himself if he survives this encounter. So the only way for him to be a redeemable man is to die.
Yeah.
And it's fucking tough. I mean, he even asked the Green Knight, he's like, is that all? And the Green Knight says, what has it been? What else ought there be? And the Green Knight, in my opinion, the Green Knight is saying, it's going to end in death anyway. Are you going to die an honorable man, or are you going to die a coward and drive your country into ruin?
Yeah.
And that's what he shows him. He's either you can die like this, with enemies breaking down the door of your castle, or I can cut your head off and you can be the honorable knight that everybody thinks you are. And everybody knows that you came to give your life away.
Or live long enough to be the villain. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
which is what happened at the end.
Throw some Black Knight in there. There you go.
And he's like, you know what? I'm just going to die then. You know,
Which is incredibly depressing, and it's very, very different from the source material. But I really like that. I really like he doesn't
too.
really learn how to be a better person. He learns the best way for him to die, which
he
is
learns that it's better to
fucking
die now
tough.
before he destroys his whole kingdom
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
and
pretty.
becomes a terrible king.
Yeah,
Be a terrible king.
and becomes
And
known as a
and
terrible king.
dude,
Yeah.
as a fucking asshole to Ellis or whatever, Elsa. But
Ellis.
is it Ellis?
I don't know.
Essel?
That's
Essel.
it's a very modern name.
The girl with the
Isn't that the-
ridiculously skinny neck. Anyways, Doug, we haven't had your thing.
Wait, hold on, Brent. You say what did you say? 7.5?
7.5 overall. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm leaning more positive as time goes on, just like you,
Okay,
with more
yeah.
and more discussions. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
Doug.
is what I like about movies like this is that you come out not sure. You're kind of like, it's 5-ish. Since I did my blab, and I'll get my
Oh, sure.
rating really quick, and then Doug can go. So yeah, walking in the theater was a 5, and now the more we've talked, I'm definitely at a 7. I could have done without the interlude. I could have done without the words popping in real quick. I think that was distracting. I didn't like that part. Cutting the interlude out and getting rid of the words would have made it better for me. So I that's why I give it a 7. But I still like it more now that we've talked about it. And you guys have brought up some stuff that I didn't think of, which made me like it more now too. So yeah, I definitely give it a 7. Doug, go ahead.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed it, and I'm liking it more now that we've talked about it. On the positive, I think that is unfortunately when he goes through every single one of these tests, it's pretty obvious to me at least that he didn't learn shit. And when you get to the end, and the problem with all learning stuff with the blade of the axe against your neck is you're not really learning anything. You're saving your own neck.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, the key is to learn it at the time. It doesn't do any good to learn after the fact.
So, sorry, really quickly. He doesn't learn that he's a good guy. He learns that he's a coward
That's what I'm
with
saying.
the blade on his neck.
Yeah.
You know,
Is that he's
he
looking
didn't become
at,
a good guy then.
he's looking at they're showing him what his life's going to be. He's ruining the life of the woman. I guess I'm not sure if he loves her or not, but he certainly
Doesn't seem like he loves her.
doesn't seem like it. But he's got an arranged marriage. He becomes the king. He screws everything up. Is that, and there's no way, as him as a character, there's no way for him to be an honorable knight. Certainly not to give the term knight a good name.
Mhm.
Not compared to the others that either he's heard about, presumably why he doesn't have a story in the beginning of the film. And so to me that was the only, and I don't know if I don't particularly have an opinion about the ending of the Green Knight going well off with your head. But I think overall, I wouldn't. The titling thing was a little distracting to me. I could take it or leave it. I think if watching it again, I wouldn't have a problem with it. But overall, I think I'd give it a 7.5.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate, like, the thing that I really liked about the ending is the fact that he doesn't learn how to become better. He just learns how to either become the coward that he's shown to be, or he can either die and kind of protect this image that people have built of him that is entirely untrue. Either way, it's a good outcome for his image, but for him, it's all bad. Because he knows exactly who he is. So
Yeah.
it's incredibly depressing. And my friend Winter actually says that I need to stop liking depressing stuff like music and movies more, because it should make me a happy person. But I like that shit, man. I like it when it's not all like
That's right.
happy and it ends well and stuff. And it really makes you just like, oh man, it's just it elicits a very different response, in still a good way. So I really like that movie was able to get it out of me, because I thought like it was a lot of like wishy-washy kind of storytelling, and then at the very very end, like the last 5 minutes of the movie, is really when it culminates out of nowhere, very strongly. And then when I
Yeah.
was watching it at that point in the theater, I was like, oh, okay, this is what we were building to. And then it didn't take me until maybe we were really talking about it here on the podcast, where I was like, oh, okay, I understand what it really meant. And I was like, now I'm, that's why I liked the ending so much. So
There is one glaring issue with this movie that we didn't talk about, though, which is that the last shot of the movie, literally the last frame of the movie, which they hang on for like, a minute and a half, is a title card that says The Green Knight in like the shittiest MS Paint font.
Yeah, I thought that was dumb as hell.
It looked
that
so
bugged me too.
bad. It
Like I
looked
said, I didn't like.
so bad.
I didn't look like any of that. I didn't like any of that stuff. Like I just
Fucking just the final one was so ugly. I couldn't believe that passed screen test where they were like,
That
all right,
was-
beautiful movie. And now here's this fucking like, drew it with my left hand.
the fucking
font.
intern made that, right? The intern made
It
that.
looked so bad. Anyway,
Yeah, it looked bad too. But wherever that happened, me and Doug walked at it anyway. So we were like, well, let's go.
I
Yeah, I
loved
was
it.
like, all right, I can leave. I like watching movies on
I
my
love it.
own because
Yeah,
it's
I love
really easy to just fucking up and go. But it hang on that font for so long. I sat there looking at that font like, this is the title card that they settled on, because that like a movie like this like had to have at least like 6 choices of title cards to fucking end
Yeah.
on, and they're like, the one that looks like my daughter drew it. We'll put
Imagine
that
what
one
the
up
other
there.
ones looked like if that was the one they chose.
if that was the best one,
I can. I have to imagine that it was a Sonic thing, right? Where it's like clearly it's the same issue with like remember the original Sonic they chose for that movie,
Yeah.
like a
Mhm.
fucking abomination. I'm assuming it's the same issue where there was one that actually was probably pretty good, and then the artist was like, "We'll make a bunch of shitty ones, so they'll for sure pick the good one."
Yeah.
And they
It
just picked one of the
backfired.
shitty ones instead.
He's like, no, I like the shitty one. Are you sure this one's?
What
You wanna look at this one
about,
again? Nope.
what about
I like the
option
shit one.
3? No, I really like option 2.
This one the 6-year-old did. I love that the best.
So one funny thing, I kept joking about it earlier, is that there apparently is a post-credit scene that I didn't stay for.
Oh, I didn't.
Oh, is
see
it
the
really?
post-credit scene either.
There's a post-credit scene that shows a young girl finding the king's crown and putting it on her head.
What is
What does
What?
that mean?
How does that help the
Huh?
story? Not sure.
Are we starting the Arthurian cinematic universe?
Exactly.
Right, the Green
Same
Knight
to you.
too.
yes.
The Green Knight.
Yes.
Did she have a Black Death haircut? This girl?
Oh, that'd be amazing. I'm trying to find if there's any pictures of it.
Guinevere.
Yeah.
I don't.
Wow.
I don't imagine Guinevere looking like the Dicky woman.
Yeah, Guinevere was supposed to
Right?
be,
Yeah.
but I mean, it was
Like-
Britain.
I
It
know,
was
the-
medieval Britain.
Teeth
So
and-
I do know it's jumping back a bit, but do you think there was a story reason to show Arthur and Guinevere so frail in that?
I was wondering
Hmm,
about that.
That's interesting.
so he
I mean-
didn't have to fight the Green Knight. I don't know because all
I
the
think
other
just
guys are old. Doug
just
pointed it out,
probably
they
a
were all
time-
old.
a timing thing.
Yeah.
I think it's a
Yeah.
timing thing, and it's
Yeah.
and again, it's probably a comparison thing. Is Gawain? Here are all these guys who have 30 years at least
Yeah.
of trials and tribulations and everything else, where they've proved their knighthood and everything. And here's Gawain, who even says in the movie, "I have none."
Mhm.
And I think their age probably just makes that all the greater, particularly
Yeah.
to him. And besides, I also think it kind of gives him this very narrow window of, hey, Arthur's going to kick it, and I'm the next in line. I've got to become king.
Yeah.
And so
that's a
there's
good
this
point.
very short period of time for him to straighten up, go from the village drunk to an honorable man, a knight. And I think, like I said, I think that compresses that time frame significantly.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Makes sense.
Who are you, so wise in the ways of science?
Listen,
You know what? I do
strange
like
women
that-
laying about in ponds distributing swords is no basis for a government.
That's what I was
do-
thinking about when that kid was
Oh.
Robbing him. Is
I
that
bet for
character?
you.
I'm being repressed.
He was actually
Sand
just like,
violence is inherent in the system.
he was just moving piles of mud before he.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're just stacking up piles of mud. I love that so much. It's so great. Keaton, I'd vent for you.
Old
You're
woman.
amazing.
Good for you.
Yeah. Oh,
Not
I'm
a-
not that old.
Yeah,
And I
I'm
swear
not that
must have
old.
I must have missed 30% of this movie because of that, because I kept seeing
I didn't know your name
Castle
was
Amp
Dennis.
and going and thinking to myself, okay, Gawain's going to become king, but how did he do that when that
Yeah.
rabbit with the large teeth
Mhm.
cut his head off?
Yeah.
They were looking for the Holy Grail. He's
Dude,
dead.
if they'd rolled out with the holy hand grenade of Antioch, I would have died, man.
That
I
would've
would
been
have like
amazing.
best movie ever. Oh
Uh,
shit!
man.
That would have been
Alright.
cool if that's what was at the bottom of that pond was the holy hand grenade of Antioch. So that girl's
Deadpool.
head.
Yeah, if he puts the Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch in as her skull,
Yeah.
that'd
That
be
would
cool.
have been great.
Yeah.
Hey,
All
cool,
right.
Green Knight.
There we go. Green Knight.
Green
Thank you for
Knight.
watching, everybody. You can catch us every Tuesday when we do an episode at 7:30 Central. And you can follow us on our Discord, which is down below, and then our Instagram is WLT Podcast.
What's on our Discord? What does that mean?
So our Discord, what a great segue, Father. So our Discord is where you can see when we post next movies. We also have like community stuff. So if you want to join, links down below. And yeah, there you go. You'll get updates to when we go
People
live.
talk about on the internet all the time, and I don't know what their Discord channel is supposed to do for us.
It's just a
It's for
community
our-
thing.
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
community, man.
All right,
We-
all right,
we-
all right, all right.
We're all there. If you want to interact with the creators,
That's the one I'm
Join
like
our
you're supposed to get.
Discord.
I mean, I'm not wise in the ways of science, so
if you want to interact with our young creators, get in
Mhm.
on the Discord.
There we
Right,
go.
yeah, the old fucks here don't know what's going on, so
I think
I mean, I
Doug
just
has a
got-
lot more wherewithal than you do.
little.
it's tough.
A little. It comes and goes. All right. Well, there you go. There's a Green Knight, and then we'll figure out what we're gonna watch for next week. And there you go.
Alright. Love you.
Bye.